Welcome to Spintires, a game that has been involved in some controversy lately. I haven't been able to figure out it. Welcome to Spintires. This game has been involved in some controversy as of late, and I haven't been able to figure out what's head and what's tails in all of this, but it seems to be working now. There were some accusations of the developers somehow deliberately interfering with the game, making it unplayable, meaning it disappeared from Steam, and it was just a clusterfuck. But we're going to play a new save file because I haven't played this in a while. Hardcore mode on planes. The only addition I've made to the vehicle lineup is that I have a Gas 66. I just tried to load up that save file and that was terribly flawed. And this is the vehicle I added to the save file. This is a Gas. I'll fire it up, turn off the parking brake and engage gear. I don't need to know how to play Spintires. I've done this before and I've literally had 5 minutes of practice before starting this video. So we can add up a back. No, let's see if we can. No, we don't want that. Okay, well, let's get rid of that and get the utility. So with that sorted, we need to have a look at the map and see we're here. We have a vehicle there. Yeah, I want to drop a marker for it. Let's try and figure out how to cross. So follow the road to about there, then go off-road. And we'll get to it. Map disappear. We'll roll out. We are in low range out here. And this has permanent diff locking on. So I'm happy. We'll turn it around. This was added in a update quite a while back, I think. But this is one of my favourite vehicles since that point, because it's very good. It is as good as the Scout car, the UAZ, in terms of off-roading and being. It's fairly light, but you can put this back pod on, so it's fairly good at reconnaissance. Let's try and see. Okay, we can't obviously do that. We're moving that slowly. And now we're getting up to cross the water. Out here we've got a fording coming up. We'll do it in this section over here. We may have to switch all-wheel drive on before we reach the water. Actually, we just got to. You have to be really gentle with this. It really is a lot about planning, and well, I don't really do planning. I just sort of, I stick it in and shake it about a bit, and then usually I get lucky. It has worked fairly well. It's also gone terribly bad. In the first video I made of this game, like a couple of years ago, I got the biggest of trucks, as it was described by, I think it was World PV, as I got the biggest of trucks stuck in the smallest of woods, which was entirely true. I got the big recovery truck, this gut launcher type thing, stuck in like a tiny little wooded area that was barely bigger than the truck itself. So we made that fording. I mean, that was fairly casual, to be honest. Swab it into normal range. I don't even think we need low range. Oh, but we do have. Oh, look at that mire we're in here. I reckon we might, because we get better fuel economy, don't we? It's a lot about being gentle, I find. Just really feathering the throttle. And I'm playing this on a 360 controller, which I actually think makes it a bit easier to get sort of really snap controls, because you're just controlling it with a finger instead of a whole foot when it comes to pedals. And it's different in a real car, obviously, because you get a lot more feedback and it's all more progressive. But with an electronic system for a computer, you kind of lose a lot of feel in the throttle. It's less, there's less friction. There's more sort of smooth, slick operation. It doesn't really give you that option of being highly progressive. Oh, and I mistook that truck, I think. Maybe not. So now I'm really getting light on the throttle here. I'm barely even holding it down because I don't want to put too much power in. Putting too much power will generate friction. It will just tear up the soil. And I don't know how often I'll come through here, so it's better to be gentle the first time. You can really plough it in, sort of later on when you realise, or once you establish your MSRs, your main supply routes, which is a military term. We should probably use a Russian military term, but I'm kind of at a loss to any of those. Victory or death is the only one I know, and I don't think that applies to this situation. But we're now at the Zil, which is famous for being completely useless. So we'll plop up the map. We're positioned here. We need to discover some cloaking. We actually have a CAMAS up there. So let's try and get to... We've got a fuel depot. We're not really pressed on fuel, but we'll try and get here and then put just one rough approximation to that point. I'll pull up next to this sill to see how much fuel and repairs is needed. It may be fully stocked, I'm not sure yet. And you especially have to be careful on existing tracks. Okay, so it's got a fairly decent amount of fuel and damage is pretty much negligible at this time. Parking brake on. And just be real gentle moving off. Yeah, these places when you already have wheel tracks, you've got to be careful because they are very soft. I mean, you're able to make good progress if you're a light vehicle, but as soon as it gets tough, you really just sink in. But really you sink in everywhere. And now we're getting to an issue out here because it's rocky. So we're kind of just stabbing the front wheels at it and hoping that it'll get through. Which it did. And now we really just... Okay, we hit something over here. And I still like the camera. Still, because I don't want to have a camera that's focused on the vehicle. Because when I move the camera around, what I want to see is what's obstructing, like the tyres around here. I want to see what was going on there. I want to keep an eye on these tyres. See what's going on with them. I'm not interested in the vehicle, it's not a racing game. So being able to move the camera around and get a good angle on whatever's going on, I find more crucial than just having the normal camera view. And this out here, I mean really at this point, it doesn't really matter what you do, you're just going to sink in. It's only when you get to the edge here that you've got to be really careful. Because using too much throttle will just keep your back wheels dug in. And now we've got a bridge coming up. We even got a fire extinguisher on this thing. Which I guess makes sense given we're driving off-road. And if we get beached on some grass or in a bush, we might set it on fire. And fire... Oh, we're not going off the bridge, are we? Nope. Fire seems to be bad for vehicles. Now that is an observation I have made, that whenever fire gets near a vehicle... Oh Christ. This may be a job for four-wheel drive. Yep. Four-wheel drive job. Come on. I mean, we're kind of sailing now. We're not as much driving as we are sailing through a muddy river. We're just a barge, or a pram, or a houseboat with this thing on the back. I could call it the Muddy Titanic, but that would be doing Titanic a disservice. I mean, we're just really making slow progress. Really slow. It's really miry out here. We're getting to some moors. And that is going to be even more muddy. I mean, you can see on the ground quite clearly where it's going to be damp. And dampness equals bad footing for vehicular driving. I think we're supposed to follow the roadway. Correct? I am correct. And this marker, the next one, has just been dropped on the actual point that we're supposed to discover. Okay, we dug in here. Back wheels are struggling for purchase on the rocks. Four-wheel drive engaged. Just see how it immediately pulls away when you get the two front wheels involved as well. It just straight on. Okay, that was a horn. That was a change of camera. Now that sound of the birds is really cool, I think. Four-wheel drive off. We don't want to burn through the fuel, and we don't want to just tear up the soil unnecessarily. Let's have a stop look at the map. Pretty much straightforward when we get a little bend in the... Oh, it's right up there. Yeah, I can do that. Kind of slippy. There's been a lot of mumbling and grumbling about first person view, but it would really spoil it for me. I mean, it might work if I get the wheel set up and everything, but honestly, this is just so much more suited for a third person camera view. It certainly is more involved. Although you could say that about first person as well, because I feel that in GTA 5, that playing LSPDVR is just so much more immersive when you've got a first person camera view. So cloaking, not clothing, I mean that's a whole different kind of video. We use the mod vastly differently. So let's try and decloak this spot, see what that unleads. We might go up and unlock the Kamas. We also need to unlock the garage. Cancel that, do that. Off we go. This looks to be pretty much just a straight charge. Like a good old school cavalry charge. What would they call the Russian cavalry? Cossacks, isn't that... Oh, look at that, that's a lake. We might have to go around the lake. Oh, look at the fuel we're using. Easy, Tiger. Into low range. It means that we can be really gentle and burn very little fuel. And fuel economy makes me happy. Oh, yes it does. I'm kind of just charging through it. I can see I want to call it an outpost, but that's certainly not what that is. That's one of those they use for hunting, don't they? They sit up there with a rifle and shoot animals. Which, I don't understand hunting. Maybe it's just because I'm not a farmer or an outdoorsy type person. But hunting seems to be kind of, I don't know, hollow. Because, I mean, the animal can't really fight back at you when you're shooting at it, can it? So really just killing a defenseless animal. There's not really much pride in that. Again, who was it that someone said that once you've hunted man, it's the only thing you can ever really hunt? You don't really want to hunt animals again? Because, like, if you've been to war and the bad men, they shoot at you, and then you shoot them back, and then that's kind of a fair fight. And then shooting animals is kind of just cowardly. Like over at books where, both in Afghanistan and even back in Vietnam, where soldiers would just go, we're not killing those animals. Like there was a helicopter pilot. I don't remember if it was in Cleared Hot by Bob Stoffey or one of the other ones. I actually was in that one, and also in Robert Mason's Chicken Hawk. Robert Mason talked about hearing other soldiers killing elephants and him just going, yeah, we're not doing that. And Bob Stoffey, he was ordered to kill animals, if I remember correctly, and he just went, yep, we totally killed them and didn't. Which I like. Sometimes you got to stick it to the man, even if you're an attack pilot. It just seems kind of wrong. I mean, they're not at fault for being in that position. It's the humans you kill, not animals. We should probably... Actually, I think it was on this map, and I think it's that very piece of woodland that I talked about getting the biggest truck stuck in. Turn all-wheel drive off, we don't need it. And now we're just getting mired as soon as I turn that off. So low range engage, gentle on the throttle. And look at how the front wheels are just sort of lightly skipping on the soil. Let's just try and see if we can't ease off the throttle so we don't dig in too much. Yeah, this road I could foresee us as using quite a bit, so it might be worth putting on four-wheel drive just to stop digging in as much. Now get rocks out here, definitely four-wheel drive engaged. just to not get stuck in the mud. So we'll unlock the Kamas, and then we will call it a day for now. Because we're kind of struggling on this road. It's always those places that cause me, well, especially with what's right overhead here. It's always those places that cause too much trouble for me, or a lot of trouble. I mean, the words are sort of just coming, as you've probably realised by now, in a random order that my brain is frantically trying to sort out in a meaningful way. Usually it fails. And now we have to climb this hill. Just very gentle here. Actually, fuck being gentle. Just full on throttle. Which worked. What doesn't work, however, is killing all-wheel drive when you're knee-deep in mud. So, four-wheel drive off now. Which is going okay. We got more rocky coming up. This seems to be the hardest map, at least for me. I have completed, I think, 2 maps, river and another one. They added in a couple more, but this is definitely the hardest one, at least for me. Because I tend to get stuck a lot on it. And I drop my load all over. So we've got to go down here. Through the rocks. Which is really not happy. Go on, chap. I mean, it's very soggy. And the rocks is just making it even worse. I mean, you really just ought to get a bulldozer to go in front of you and just bulldoze all those rocks away. And you might as well just tie a cable then from the bulldozer to your truck. That's what I'd do, but I'm not a Russian trucker in the outback. Do you call it an outback? Is that just an Australian term? I'd love to see an Australian do this, because you'd have the best of languages combined with the hardest of climate to drive a truck in, which I think would be great. I mean, pretty much putting Irish people and Australian people in a given situation and watching them react. That's just worthy of a television show on its own. Because it's just funny. Irish people, they're great and they're funny. And Australians are great and they're funny as well. Okay, mud. Off with that. I mean, surely everyone by now has seen the video of the Australian trucker who's got the... no, it's not a trucker, it is a... Is it a trucker? I don't know, but there's a video out there, one Australian, there's many Australian truck videos, but there's one, I think it's where a truck is coming up behind a parked car at a traffic light and they kind of skid sideways and nearly have a crash, and the camera says, "Fuck a duck," which is just the funniest thing ever. There's also another one where a car drives over a log or a tree that's fallen on the road after a storm, and then a truck comes barreling down the road behind it and goes all sideways with the trailer, and it's just all mad, and they just profound a bit of swearing as well, and it's just the funniest thing ever because nobody got hurt either way, so it's just lots of foul language said in a really cool accent. And that just goes for Australians all round. I mean, they just have the best reactions. There's also another clip from one of the support races from Bathurst last year, the Bathurst 1000, where 2 cars collide and one go into the wall at the fastest part in the track. And the commentary goes something along the lines of, "Oh, that's a huge accident. It's on fire as well." Which is very, very, very... I mean, it's accurately described, but it's the way it's delivered that just seals the deal of making it just the funniest thing you've ever heard. And I mean, Irish people, they're just Irish. They're just great. Well, there's a whole Catholic Protestant thing, but we'll leave that aside. But they kind of want to kill each other. Which seems like a stupid idea. I mean, you're both Christian people, so surely you just get along. I'll never understand that. I know it's pointless to argue anything to those people because they'll just have the differences forever, unless they themselves. It's kind of like drug or alcohol addicts. You can combine the two into one group as far as I'm concerned, but substance addicts and people in, to a certain degree, in abusive relationships, is that you can't help them until they realise they want that help themselves. I'd apply the same situation in the Irish, that they kind of got to just realise that, yeah, we're pretty similar really. I mean, we're both kind of like them Jesus people. So why don't we just get along and have Jesus food and go to Jesus' house and all of that? And then get back to killing the British, because plainly just get together on that. Then again, that's a bad idea because the Brits are kind of funny. So let's not do that. Then again, the Brits did bomb my country during World War II, which I've never really understood why we put the Germans as the bad people. Yeah, they kind of invaded us and all that, but the people we should be afraid of was the Allies, because they like bomb our country and shit. Actually, I think the deadliest ever incident in Denmark actually involved British bombers mistakenly bombing like a school or something in Copenhagen. And now we're going through this tree here. Are we going to end this with it? Oh, I unlocked it. Oh yeah, I'm a sexy motherfuckers. So, halt. Meep meep motherfuckers. Let's change into this truck and see what it needs. Plenty of fuel, fair bit of damage, and we have a trailer. Hang on, that's one of those garage trailers. That's something we should look at next time. Goodbye for now.